So let's talk about the third tithe, and I think some of these questions will... Not keeping a third tithe takes away property rights. But remember, the third tithe is for welfare. This could be construed as paying taxes that support welfare. Now, our welfare system it's horrible. It's not even close to what God, so it's hard to rationalize that. But the reality is we're forced to spend it, and there's no way around it. Biblical tithing is always on the increase. The closest way to look at that with Federal Reserves, it's always on the net, not the gross. It's based on what you make. Okay? So you're taxed not on the 100 sheep you have, but how many kids did they have? That's how it works. It's on the increase. It's not very clear because we're using the wrong system anyways. It's hard to match them up. It really is. If we were using gold and silver, we wouldn't even be getting the income tax. We would just make the $100,000 and just pay the tithe off that. But we're getting the income tax as a secondary thing. The first tithe is for Levites. It's to run the government. We call it an income tax. It's corrupted. It's not quite right. The second tithe is for holy days. This is a savings account to be spent on holy days. It's vacation time. It says right there, at the place where the Lord chooses to put His name. That's the holy days. That's where we go. So it's a savings account. We get to spend it on whatever we want to, whatever your soul lusts after. And the third tithe is for the poor and needy. That's what we're going to go through. There's four statutes. The third tithe shall take place every third year. At the end of 3 years, thou shalt bring forth all the tithe. So here's a Sabbath year right here. The first 2 years, you have a first and a second tithe. The third year, you also have a third tithe. The fourth and fifth, you only have a first and second. The third year, you have a third tithe. And the seventh, you only have a first and a second. Remember, the second one is your savings account.
Right.
It's for you.
For feast days.
Yeah, it's for you. Yeah. It's for vacation time.
First one is your income tax.
Yes, exactly. You're already doing it with your income tax. I personally don't believe in adding to it another 10%.
Right.
The first tithe does not go to the church.
Oh.
My opinion of the church, if you look in almost every secular definition of ecclesia, is it's the judicial system.
Oh.
So your first tithe goes to the judicial system. Our problem is we not only have a judicial system, we have a king and a Congress we got to pay for also. So now we have 30-something% or whatever it is for your tax bracket. So we're only supposed to have a judicial system and 10% pays for that fine.
So we don't have, okay, all right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The third tithe is for the Levite, strangers, orphans, and widows. So that's who the needy predominantly are.
Can you decide who the needy is though? If you see somebody who needs help, that's
the way I do it today.
Okay, all right.
Shall receive a blessing from the Lord for faithfully following the third tithe, and you shall receive a curse for not faithfully following the third tithe. Okay, here's how it looks. This is the American welfare program. This is why American welfare is not working. We have gone way beyond the scope of scriptural charity.
Before 1917, we didn't have welfare. We had charitable organizations.
Look at all that.
Care of people in charity. It didn't give them enough to actually take care of themselves, maybe 80%. So they still had to go out and do some work by chopping wood, shoveling coal, and the women did sewing.
Well, that's closer to what God intended.
Yeah. 1917 is what charity, the welfare system.
I know this gets annoying, but it's proving a point, I think, and that's the whole purpose to it, is to show how far beyond God's system we've gone. This encourages living off the government. It's so easy to get. God's program will teach personal responsibility. Here's how it works. You can get on the first year, you can glean, which requires work. You can eat the corners of your neighbor's crops, which requires work. And you can pick what you can eat from others, as long as you don't harvest it. You can eat your daily fill, which requires work. The second year, the same thing happens. You're working that year. The third year, you can work, but you can also get the third tithe. Now all of a sudden you've been working and working, and now you get a handout to try and pick yourself up and make yourself better. The next year, you got to work again for it. You're not getting a handout. The next year, you got to work again for it. Then finally, the 6th year, you can get that handout again. And the 7th year, all your debt is forgiven. Do you see what this teaches? You're working and working. You finally get a handout. Are you going to squander that, or are you going to try and make yourself better so you don't have to go pick cranes in the field and try and... This encourages personal responsibility is what it does. This whole system encourages you, because you can only get this third tithe 2 years out of 7, and they're spread out. So you got to work and work. All that's going to be doing is teaching you, man, I'm getting tired of this. I want to get a better life. I'm sick of this work. Oh, my neighbor's giving me $5,000 to start a business. Thank you. That is so awesome. What are you going to do?
Buy a big screen TV.
Exactly, probably. In America, that's what we do. I literally have neighbors who they try to arrange things to live off the government. I have a niece that does that. Everything is about living off the government because it's that easy. Our system is not at all the way God designed it.
So were the people supposed to, every 3 years, bring this 10% to the Levites, and then the widows and the orphans would
come and get it from there. What I personally do, and you can construe this as we're paying our welfare program as it is, and that's your third tithe, but it's really neat to just put it aside if you can. And when you have a neighbor to find a way to get it to them and try and bless them when you can. I don't know when the Sabbath year is. There's a lot of theories. So I don't know which year to pick. So Rochelle and I put 3 1/3 aside every year. And when something comes up from people we personally know, that's what we do. But that's just one way. We really can't do this until our government's on board.
Right.
That's the reality. But this is what God said to do. And now you can see why we're reaping consequences. Our welfare scams are exactly a result of not keeping the third tithe. That's exactly where it goes. And we should have avoided that.
You're saying we
They
can't
make
follow?
money off the
We couldn't follow this easily. Well, we'd be paying double. You see, because we're already paying part of our check to welfare. If we did it on our own,
Yeah.
Do it again.
we're doing it again.
But God says that He's going to punish us if we don't.
He is punishing America because we don't. Because all of our welfare money is going to someone sitting on the couch playing video games and living off the government. And that's our punishment. He's wasting our money for us.
And they penalize them if they go to work.
Exactly. I've got a friend that he makes more money on workers' compensation than he does going to work, and he's fine. He's not that injured. I mean, he wants to live off the government, and I can see why. It's very relaxing.